Hi everyone, it's Sandy, and today I'm going to be talking about my all-time favorite YA book series. And honestly, I'm surprised that I haven't done this video already. I have actually read and finished a ton of YA book series since I've started reading consistently, and I do have a couple of videos where I shared all of those books. I think my last one was in 2017, which is 3 years ago, so it's definitely time for a more updated version. There are definitely some series where I questioned whether or not I should include it in this video, because I know that when I read that series at the time that I read it, I loved it. It was my favorite. I'm not a huge rereader, but as time goes on, I fall out of love with certain series. But with this video, I really wanted to focus on my all-time favorite series, and these are series that I really loved at the time that I read them. And when I think about these series now, even if I haven't read them in a while, I still feel some sort of connection with the series, and I just know that it's a series that I will probably love for the rest of my life. The first book series that is definitely my all-time favorite is, of course, The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. I honestly don't even have to give a synopsis of this book, because even if you haven't read it, most people have an idea of what the series is about. This was actually an assigned reading, so I read this when I was in 8th grade for my reading class. When I was in 8th grade, I wasn't in love with reading, but there were book series that I was just obsessed with, and this is one of them for sure. I distinctly remember that when we were assigned this book, I was like, oh my god, another school reading. Why do we always have to read these books that I don't care for? But honestly, this series really has changed my life. This series has just been a huge part to my reading journey. It did take me a while to get through this book, but after I finished it, I immediately went to my 8th grade teacher and asked for the second book, and I finished the second book in like a day or two, and then I read the third book and I finished that in like a day or two. My reading teacher was honestly surprised at how fast I was getting through these books, but I'm sure it made her happy to see a student reading books for pleasure and not solely just for school. I also remember keeping up to date with the movie casting and movie news, and I remember when Jennifer Lawrence was first casted as Katniss, I did not like her, and the only reason I didn't like her was because she didn't have brown hair. Apparently back then I didn't know dyeing your hair was a thing, so that was literally the only reason why I wasn't super happy with Jennifer Lawrence being casted. But obviously after seeing the first Hunger Games movie, I loved her, and I think she is the perfect Katniss. This series was also the start to me wanting to read all of the dystopian books out there, which leads into my next all-time favorite series, and that is Divergent by Veronica Roth. This series was the start to me discovering Booktube, and Christine from Pulling Bananas Books was the first booktuber that I discovered. I watched her Divergent book review, and the rest was history. I really love that the story was set in Chicago, because that's where I live. I was born and raised in Chicago, and it was so cool to read about certain scenes that were taking place in well-known areas in Chicago, such as at Navy Pier with the Ferris wheel. And of course, seeing the very first Divergent movie was everything. I was so excited for it, and I really loved the Divergent movie. I actually haven't seen part 1 of the Allegiant movie yet, and even though I've heard a lot of bad reviews on that third movie, I'm bitter that they never continued and finished it and just pretty much left everyone hanging. Apparently they were going to transition into a TV show or something, but that just never happened, so I'm a little bit bitter about that, and that there's no closure to the movie series, even though I haven't even seen the third one, and I know many people hate it. I also remember that when I was like a freshman in high school, we had like a reading fair, and basically we had to pick a book, give a synopsis of the book, talk about all the characters, the type of conflict, and the themes of the story, and Divergent was my book of choice for the reading fair. And the reason that I chose Divergent was because I wanted other people to read it, and the reading fair was a great way to talk about a book that you want other people to read. And while I didn't absolutely love Allegiant, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, where I gave the other books like 5 out of 5. The ending had such a huge emotional impact on me. I remember buying the book on iBooks the day that it came out so that I can read it throughout the day. When I was in high school, I would get picked up by my uncle and I'd go to his house for breakfast and he'd take me to school, and I remembered reading that book while I was at my uncle's house and finishing it and just sobbing so much. Like, I could not stop crying, and so during school my eyes were a little bit red, and when my friend asked me like, oh, why are your eyes red, have you been crying, I literally started tearing up again just thinking about how Allegiant ended. I just really connected with Tris as the main character, and I loved being part of her journey throughout the books, and this is definitely one of my all-time favorite series. My next 2 favorite all-time series is a package deal, and that is Vampire Academy and Bloodlines by Richelle Mead. One of the main things that I loved about both of these series is the romance. There are definitely some issues that I have with the romance in the Vampire Academy series, but overall I just love Rose and Dimitri and Sydney and Adrian. They're definitely 2 of my favorite OTPs. Both of these series were series that I had so much fun reading. Rose and Sydney are very different characters. Rose was definitely very badass and sassy, but I love how much she cared about the people in her life. So while people were in love with Twilight, I was in love with Vampire Academy and Bloodlines. I really love the world. There are bad vampires that will literally kill you, but then there are also good vampires. And then there are Dampiers, which are half human, half vampire. I really love the structure in this world, and to this day, I am still very, very, very bitter that the Vampire Academy movie flopped in theaters. I just felt like people saw the movie as another Twilight, even though the series is completely different. The only similarity is that there are vampires in it. I actually really liked the Vampire Academy movie. I love Zoe Deutsch. She was an amazing Rose. I wasn't a huge fan of the guy that played Dimitri, to be honest, but overall I just love the way Zoe Deutsch embodied Rose Hathaway, and I just wish we had more movies to watch, but I know that's never going to happen. I also love that in Bloodlines we get to see characters that we know and love in Vampire Academy, so even though Bloodlines didn't focus on Rose and Dimitri or Alyssa and Christian, I just really love seeing their relationship grow and develop in Bloodlines. Honestly, even though I love Rose and Dimitri, I think Sydney and Adrian are my favorite couple throughout the whole Vampire Academy and Bloodlines series. So enough of me talking about Vampire Academy and Bloodlines, let's move on to the next series. So my next favorite series is more of a world, and that is the Shadowhunter world by Cassandra Clare. I love the entire Shadowhunter Chronicles, and I feel like it's very, very hard for me to choose a favorite. And I know so many people love the Infernal Devices. That is their favorite series out of the entire Shadowhunter Chronicles. And I do really, really love the Infernal Devices, but I also really love the Immortal Instruments and the Dark Artifices. They're just all so, so good. I love each series individually for different reasons, and for that, I can't pick a favorite series. But right now, I'm holding City of Bones because this was the start of my love for Cassandra Clare. This is another series that I started during the time that I discovered BookTube. I'm pretty sure I started the series back in 2012, and it's 2020 now. That's 8 years. Like, oh my god, I've been reading Shadowhunter books for 8 years, and in 2012 I would have never thought that I'd be able to share my Shadowhunter love with another person, and now I have a freaking parabatai. Shout out to you, Trin, because I'm just so thankful that the Shadowhunter series has brought us together, and I'm getting a little emotional now, so I'm going to stop talking about the Shadowhunter world and I'm going to move on now before I start bawling. So all those series that I've just talked about are series that I started 2011, 2012, 2013, and since then I haven't really had that many all-time favorite series being added to the list, and a huge part as to why I really love those series was that the series was either already completed or most of the books were already out, and so I was able to read a majority of the books at one time, and I feel like that's how I really fall in love with a series, is if I read it all at once. And throughout the years I haven't really done that. I would usually start a series when there's only one book out, and by the time the second book comes out I'm like not as invested or interested in the story anymore, and so I lose that initial connection and excitement over the series. And so even though I have completed so many series, it really does take a lot for me to call a series like an all-time favorite. I just have two more that I wanted to talk about. The next series is Illuminae by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. I've never been a huge sci-fi reader, but this story and the way that it was formatted was just so refreshing to read about. In case you didn't know, Illuminae is a sci-fi book, but it's told through IMs and emails and documents and reports, and it's just so cool. Each book in the series does follow two new main characters, but we do get to see from the characters in the previous books. The third book was definitely my least favorite in the series, but I love seeing all of these characters come together, and it was just such a good sci-fi read. And I know that Illuminae has been optioned to become a film, and it's been years since I've heard that news, and I'm really hoping that we see more movement in the production for Illuminae because I really would love to see this adapted. I think it'd be so cool, and to see how they would adapt it considering it's not like a traditionally formatted story. And the last series that I wanted to talk about in this video will come to no surprise for those who have been following my channel for a while, and that is Renegades by Marissa Meyer. Honestly, this series has everything that I love. It has characters with powers. There are diverse characters as well, characters with disability, characters of different race and ethnicity. There's the slow burning enemies to lover romance that's done so perfectly. There are secret identities and betrayal and plot twists, and it's so good. I love it so much. The powers in here are also super unique. One of the main characters can draw certain objects and make it come to life. Another main character can put people to sleep by touch and never has to sleep herself. There's also another character in here that can like form weapons from her blood, so that's super interesting. I also love that the story explores the theme of what's good and what's bad. It's very complex. It's not just black and white. This is such a good action-packed series, and I will forever recommend it. So those are all of my all-time favorite series. In the comments, please let me know some of your all-time favorite series because I would love to check out some new ones. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time. Bye!